Alright guys, welcome back. So in the previous video we finished the markup phase. Now it's time to move on to the CSS and create our final product. But before that, we gotta export a couple of images from Photoshop. So let's open up Photoshop, and the images we need are this icon right here, the blue logo, and finally, let me zoom in here so you can see we gotta export this kind of decoration from the bottom. All right, so let's do that real quick. Lock icon, duplicate this, trim it. It's 41 by 41. So I'm just gonna export this in IMG and call it lock icon. All right, next is the blue logo. Do the same and call it company logo.png. All right, and finally we got to take care of this this decoration right here. All right, so let's go to content. It's called artwork. All right, so let's duplicate it in a new document. All right, just fill the background with a black color so you can see what you're doing. Zoom in a bit. All right, something like that. So to create a pattern for it, all I gotta do is take this bit and up to here, and this is symmetrical, so I'll hide the background, Command or Control Shift C, and then copy this in a new layer. All right, and export. Now let's call it artwork BG. All right. And that's it for the images. Now let's move back to Espresso, and the very first thing I want to do is include our style sheet. So let's do style sheets and say link href will be style.css. css/style.css, and we can remove the end tag since this is HTML5 doc type. Okay, refresh, and this is what we get. All right, cool. Now the font size is by default. Actually, I don't even know which font size this is. Which font this is, but I do know I want to use Droid Sans, so I'll just go to Google Web Fonts, grab these two, normal and bold, and grab this bit. Okay, and go back to Espresso, and I'll just do this, include the Google font. And we can get rid of this. Okay. And next, go to Style CSS, and we'll create a new category for typography. All right. So let's say body font family is Droid Sans with a fallback to Helvetica, Arial, and sans serif. Alright, cool. Let's have a look. Alright, so now all our fonts are changed to Droid Sans. Now you notice different elements have different font sizes. For instance, the link is, I think, 16 pixels. This one is a bit bigger, I think around 24. It's an H1. The H5 is 12 pixels, and so on, the labels and the links and the paragraphs. Now, let me introduce this line right here that says body font size 1M. And let me explain a bit about M's. They are relative measurement units. And basically 1M represents 100% from the parent's font size. So they are relative to the parent's font size. Now in most browsers, the default font size is 16 pixels. So what I did here in the reset CSS was set the font size to 1M, which means to 16 pixels, mainly to prevent an IE bug that just shows the EMs just out of proportion. So by setting this font size to 1M, we actually made sure all the elements have the proper font size. But for this theme, 16 pixels just seems a bit too much for some elements. So we'll use this typography section to reduce the font size of certain elements to one that we want. And the first one actually is the paragraphs. So let's do paragraph, and we'll change the font size to 12 pixels. Now here's the interesting bit. All of our layout will be M based, so that it's liquid, it resizes according to the font size and according to the browser window size. So how exactly do you turn pixels into M's, or M's from pixels? Well, it's very simple. For instance, if you want an element to have a font size of 12 pixels, you gotta know the font size of its parent. In our case, the font size of the body, which we already know it's 16 pixels. So the way to calculate this is to divide 12 by 16. So the target value divided by the font size of the parent. So let me just do this. Font size 12 pixels, and I'll refresh so you can see how it looks like. Okay. And now I'll just change the font size to an M value. So if we divide 12 by 16, we get 0.75 M's. And I'll just do here 12 by 16, so that when I look later on over the code, I'll know the desired pixel size and the parent's font size. So now if we refresh, you'll see no difference at all. Look, it's the exact same size. Only now if I increase the font size, you'll see that everything is working as it should. Now in most modern browsers this works by default, but if you don't set the M's correctly, you might get in trouble in Internet Explorer. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind. All right. Well, with that done, let's move on to some elements from the login page, and we'll work on the typography as we go along. First one is the top bar. So let's go down here and create a new section, call it top bar. All right, so div top bar, we'll do a background, actually a background color. All right, let's grab the color from here. Okay, and we also want some padding. So padding, we want 10 pixels of padding. So what's the formula again? Target value divided by parent font size. So in our case, it's 10 divided by 16. So it's 0.625 ems. 10 by 16. All right, have a look. All right, looking good. Okay, next, we gotta style this button right here. And to do that, actually for top bar, this is the top padding, and we don't want any lateral paddings. So just top and bottom. Okay, there we go. Okay, next for the link. Now, if we look in the login page, and later on in the dashboard page and the other elements of the theme, we'll see that there are so many buttons that have the same characteristics as this one. So they have round corners, they have, like, they're all links for starters, and they all have an image which is positioned either to the left or to the right. So we gotta figure out some classes that will make our job easier, and that will make the job of the end user a bit easier when designing his own template. So just bear with me while I add some classes here, and I'll explain in a bit. So we'll say button, round, dark, image left, and IC left arrow. Now, what I'm saying here is we want a link that looks like a button, has round corners, a dark color, the image is on the left of the text, and the actual image is a left arrow. Okay, so let's make that happen. Create a new section, call it general, and create another one, call it buttons, and create another one and call it colors. Cool. So for general, we'll say round, and we'll just do a 5 pixel roundness here. So we'll say border radius is 5 pixels, but we want to express this in ems. So we'll say 5 divided by 16. So that's 0.3125. 0.3125 ems. 5 by 16. Okay, copy this, because we'll do moz border radius and WebKit border radius. Cool. So now have a look, and if we actually had a background to the link, you could actually see the round corners. We'll get to that. Next, buttons. The class of button has padding, so we'll say padding 10 pixels, but in ems 10 pixels is 0.625 ems. By 16. All right, that's the padding. And what else? For the link to display properly as a button, which has margins and paddings, we gotta set display to inline block. Okay. What else? Actually, that's it for now. Colors. We said dark, so let's do dark, and the color for dark, let's do background color is this color, 3F4551, and the color for the text is white. Let's have a look. And already you can see that it's starting to take shape. So we have round corners right here, and we have the background, we have the white text, and the next thing that we need to do is add a hover state. So let's do dark hover, and the background color for this is, if I can just find my notes around here, just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, there we go. So the background color is 5D 6677, and the color is white again. Have a look. All right, there we go. Now the button is a bit too big, and that's because the font size is a bit too big. So we gotta tone that, take that down a bit. So go to typography, and we need to have it. We need it to have a font size of 12. So we'll just say button. Okay. All right, now the font size is good, but the padding is not so good, and that's because if we look at the button, the padding is 10 by 16, but we actually changed the font size to 12, so it's not 10 by 16, it's 10 by 12. And when you're talking about paragraphs and links, the actual font size of the element counts, not necessarily the one of the parent. So we got to do 10 by 12, and that gives us 0.833 ems. And that's 10 by 12. All right, so now you'll see that the padding is much better, so it's close to 10 pixels. Okay, so actually let's just do a quick measurement here so you can see. All right, so this is our button, and if we measure the lateral padding, it is 10 pixels, right? Of course, the top padding is a bit bigger. It's 12 pixels because that's the way the font renders from Google Fonts. It has just a bit of top and bottom padding. There's, as far as I know, there's nothing we can do about that. So that's why the top and bottom paddings are a bit bigger, but that's not really a problem for us. So this is the button so far. There are two more classes that we need to worry about, and that is image left and IC left arrow. Now image left is just a fancy class for displaying the background in the proper position. We're just saying I want the image on the left, right? So image left, we'll say background position left and center. Okay. And let's also do IC left arrow, so we have something to test the new class. So IC left arrow, we'll have a background image URL img, and inside the img folder I created an icons folder where I've included two icons 16 by 16. Let me open them. They are white, you can see them here. 16 by 16 from the icon set that I mentioned in the PSD videos. So we'll be using a bunch of icons from that set. All right, so where were we? img icons, and we'll do IC left arrow .png. All right, let's have a look. Okay, cool. So the background image is showing, only it's repeating, and we don't want that. And you have two options here: either set no repeat if you have background here, or easier, just go to button and say background repeat none, no repeat, sorry. So now it only shows on the left and on the center. Okay, let me zoom in here a bit so you can see a bit better. Now the text is kind of overlapping with the image, and the image is positioned kind of right near the left edge, and we don't want that. So two things we got to do: push the image to the right and also push the text to the right. So image left, instead of left, we'll do an EM value, and we'll do 10 pixels, right? We want the image to be 10 pixels from the left, and 10 by 12, which is the font size of the button, is 0.833. So we'll do this. Okay. Let's have a look. There we go. The image is already positioned. Now we got to push the text, and the text should be pushed by 10 till the image, and then 16 from the image, that's 26, and then another 10 from the image to the text again. So that is 36 pixels. Divided by 12, that is 3 amps, right? So we'll do padding left 3 amps, 36 by 12. Have a look, and there we go. That is our finished button, and as you can see, the distance from the button to the left side is equal to the distance from the button to the actual text, and that is exactly what we wanted. Okay, cool. So that is the button. Now it's time to move on to the header. And the header has a login intro and a company logo here. So let's have a look at the Photoshop. And we need some padding here from top to bottom. So we'll do inside style CSS. Let's say top bar and header. Oops. So div header. We need a padding of 20 pixels, and we'll do padding 20 pixels, and the parent font size is 16. So 20 by 16 is 1.25 ems. 20 by 16. All right, and we only want that to be top and bottom, so we'll do 0 for left and right. Okay, have a looky look. All right, zoom out a bit. All right, now a couple of new elements here. Div with an ID of login intro. We gotta style that one first. So div ID login intro, and it will just have a background, transparent, the URL images, actually img. What did we call it? Lock icon .png. No repeat. We'll set it to left and center. All right, good. All right, let's see what else. We gotta style this H1. It's just a bit too big. So let's go back to typography, and we'll say H1. The font size will be 18 pixels. So we'll do 18 by parent font size, which is 16, and that is 1.125 ems. All right, 18 by 16. All right. Let's have a look. Cool, and it looks almost good. Now for the login intro, we'll say div login intro h1. We'll do an uppercase for that, but you can do this by setting text transform to uppercase, and that will transform it. But I just realized we have the text transform property in multiple buttons, so we might as well just make a class from it. So we'll do, let's say, text upper, text transform uppercase, and now we'll just go to login h1, put a class of text upper. Same result. Good. All right. We gotta push now. We gotta push the login and the h1 and h5 to the right a bit. So let's move to style CSS. All right, and we have the login intro. And let's do a top and bottom padding of about 10 pixels. So first we'll do padding, top and bottom. That's 10 pixels, 10 by 16. It's 0.625. 0.625 ems. Right should be none, bottom should be 0.625 ems, and left it should be 41 pixels, which is the lock icon. So 41 pixels plus another, let's say 20 pixels. So let's round it up to about 60 pixels. It doesn't have to be perfect. So let's say 60 pixels by 16, that's 3.75 ems. Alrighty, let's have a look. Okay, now the reason I added the top and bottom paddings was because without them the background image was kind of cut off, and I didn't want to set a fixed width for a fixed height, sorry, for the entire div. So instead I just preferred to add a bit of padding, and that took care of the problem. All right, now the padding here to the right is a bit too big. So instead of, what did we do, 60, let's do about 50. So 50 by 16, 3.125. All right, and that looks much better. Okay. So what is that? 10 by 16 and 50 by 16. All right, cool. Now the company logo, in our Photoshop document here, the company logo is 41 pixels in height, which is actually correct because it's the same height as the lock icon, so it kind of fits perfectly. But the problem we have is we need this to be floated to the left and the logo to the right. So instead of setting individual floats in the CSS, I'll create a general style for the floats. I'm going to do FL, which is float left, and then FR, which is float right. So now go to login and set the login intro class FL and the link to FR, and actually move the company logo ID to the link and not the image. Cool. All right. So now we have one element to the left and one to the right. But the problem we have is the elements from the bottom are kind of overflowing. So we got to clear those floats. And the easiest way to do is to add a class of CF, clear float. Remember the clear fix? CF for the clear fix. So now have a look, and the floats have been cleared and all the elements are where they should be. Cool. All right, next. Next, we have the actual content area with the login form. But we'll be doing that in the next video, so you guys won't get bored. So that's it for this one. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.